Hi, good afternoon. My name's Billy McDiarmid. I am the Research and Sourcing Manager here at Social Media Search. What I want to do is just quickly tell you a bit about Google Plus. Talk about how you can use Google Plus to promote your jobs and potentially promote your brand. B, how you can actually source candidates via Google Plus by using two different types of searches, both the inbuilt search engine and the searching and actually searching from Google itself and running some X-ray searches. And then the third one I want to talk about is using Google Hangouts to reach out and contact candidates. And Google Hangouts is a really powerful tool, as actually you don't need to know the person's email address or be connected with them via Google Plus or have them in your circles to actually reach out and message the person. So it's really, really powerful and a really, really good way of reaching out to people. So first of all, for anyone who hasn't used Google Plus, I'm just going to do a quick run through, show you a quick guide to using Google Plus. When you sign up for Google Plus, when you sign up for any Google account, you do automatically have a Google Plus account. So if you've got a Gmail account, if you've got a YouTube account, then you automatically have it. You might not just realise it. So to log into Google Plus, you go to plus.google.com. If you're already logged in with your Google account like I am, then it will automatically take you to your page. If you're not, then it will prompt you for your Google contact information. So what we have here, once we do log in though, we've got various options. You can see we have our all friends, family, acquaintances, following tabs at the top. So these are what are known as your Google Plus circles. When you find somebody on Google Plus, what you can do to be able to track that person's activity, you can actually add them to one of these circles. So if I click on friends, for example, I'll just take me a minute just to go in there. You can see that anyone who's sharing information or anyone whose posts I can see here, these are people who I've added in to that friend circle. If I go to family, then it's family. If I go to acquaintances, that's people, there's no rule behind it, but it's people who I know perhaps through business more than I do through being a friend. But I have also set up another circle for work contacts, so that's people who I speak to professionally. And I've actually set up there one, just a training one called UKMP. That was one I used a couple of weeks ago when I was running a training session for one of our clients. So to add someone to a Hangout, so for example, if I wanted to find someone to add, I'll use Richard Branson just as an example. I go to the search bar, type in Richard Branson's name. Very similar to the way that you use Facebook and use Twitter. It will take you into that person's profile. And then what you can do here is then choose what to do. Just take me a second for that to load. So if I wanted to add Richard Branson to my circles, I click on Add to Circles, and then I pick which one. And I'll say that Richard Branson is my friend. Add him into my friends. And now when I go back to my Google Plus homepage, and then click on the Friends tab, that takes me into the Friends circle, and I'll be able to see that person's activity. Now on the All tab, that shows you everyone who you've added into any of your circles, whether it's friends, family, or any of the custom ones that you've actually set up. So you can see everything. So the circles are just a way of arranging content and filtering out perhaps things that you don't want to see on a regular basis, keeping things away from your main feed and just being able to manage what you're viewing and what you're reading. So it is very, very useful. One example you could use that for Recruitment is a good way of separating candidates. So you could, for example, if you were a technical recruiter, if you were recruiting for developers, then you could maybe have certain groups set up for different types of developers, maybe junior developers, senior developers, or you could filter them by skill set. So you could have one for mainly front end guys, you could have one for back end developers. So there's lots and lots of different ways of using that, different ways and that it will benefit you. But it's up to you to find the way that works for you. So that's what the premise of Google Plus is built on in terms of sharing. Once you've set up your profile, then you can then share anything that you want. If I wanted to share a job ad, for example, or a video, I'm just going to go to YouTube and I'll find one of social media searches videos. So if I wanted to take one of the videos that we've posted, okay, then I could take that, copy the link, post it across. Okay, it's automatically, like it does on Facebook, it's automatically picked up as a video, and then hit share, and then that will appear on my timeline, and anyone who's got me in their circles, then that video is going to appear. So sharing content is simple and as straightforward as that. Otherwise, on your homepage for Google Plus, you've got Add People. So if you wanted to find someone just by typing in their name or get some suggestions, there, click on that. You've then got your Hangout option, which we'll talk about in more detail shortly. And then you've got your Google account options, alerts, and bear in mind everything's hooked in together. So my notifications might include things like photos, that type of thing. Okay. So that's a brief introduction to using the front page of Google Hangouts. It is quite intuitive, it is quite straightforward. So to be honest with you, you won't need to, it will take too long to get your head around it. Something that's actually popped up there, really, really good. It actually supports hashtags as well. So in the same way as Twitter and Facebook both use hashtags, you can actually use hashtags on Google Plus as well. Okay, so the next thing is searching on Google+. So if I do want to find information, there are a couple of different ways that I can do it. Okay, so I can use the main search bar at the top here, so I can search for people, pages, or posts. So say I wanted to find, the page for the White House, just for example. Then I can type in the White House, and it automatically brings up multiple suggestions in different categories. So it's brought up places, it's brought up communities. I can then select it, and that will then take me into the White House's Google Plus page. And it's quite an intuitive search engine. So if instead of the White House, for example, I want to pick up Barack Obama, okay, then it's automatically going to pick up whether the person's whether what you're finding is a person, or whether it's a community, or whether it's something else. So you can see there's a few matches, a couple of other people called Barack Obama, plus a couple of communities related to Barack Obama. There you go. If I go back to my Google Plus homepage a second, click on Home. Then I do have some other options there. So I could actually go, for example, into communities of people, and then it would just search against, or it would allow me to search against people and bring up an option. Okay, so I could type there and search for anyone. So if I wanted to type and search for Alan Forrest, football player, then it will bring up matches there accordingly. And that works in exactly the same way as different options. So you could do photos, and it will search for photos. If you've got your Google Drive account hooked up to your photos, up to your Google Plus, then it will automatically back up any photos that you have. So it's very clever and very intuitive. That's the way I use it. I've got my Google Drive I pay for a Google Drive account, which means I've got all of my documents located centrally and then can find them across multiple devices, and that includes backing up all my photos I take from my Android device. So it's very, very clever and very intuitive. So, the main search part of it is very clever. You can search for people here quite easily, but actually what a more powerful way of doing it is actually if you do search from Google itself as opposed to the search engine from within Google+. So if I go back to my Google homepage, I'm now away from Google+, although I can very quickly get back to it by just clicking on Plus Billy, just at the top right hand side of the screen. But if I wanted to search against Google+, so say I wanted to find people with a job title, developer who lived in London, then what I could do is do site:+.google.com, then developer, and then I could do something like lives in London. Now what I'm doing there is I'm tying it back to the format of the information on the person's Google+ profile. So on someone's Google+, then I'll use this chap as an example. Adi Oshini, first result. Apologies if that's the incorrect pronunciation of his name. Okay, takes me into his profile, and I can see that the format there is lives in London. I've got his occupation, developer advocate at Google. So it actually works for Google, example. And then there's lots of information. Now this chap's really well populated because he actually works for Google. I would imagine that working for Google, then it's going to he is going to be almost mandated to use it. But he's got plenty of information there. You can see he's got his links to things like his Blogger site, his Reddit account, his GitHub, Picasa, Twitter, loads and loads of different links and loads of different accounts there. There's a really well populated profile. It's a really good way to search. Say if I wanted to do that a bit more, say I wanted to do, if I wanted to just find a list of people who work at Google, then I could do that. Site lives in London at Google, and say I wanted to find someone, I don't know whether this will work or not, someone with Java on my profile. Okay, then you can see down below it's bringing up results here of people who work at Google. So you can see that I've got a web solutions engineer at Google, a software engineer at Google. Okay, I've got a works at Google. Something to be careful, some people do have works at Google on their profile, some people just have job title and then at Google. So some people, initially I think if I remember rightly when it first came out, it did always say in people's profile works at. I don't think it does that anymore, so you want to just make sure that you're searching on both. You can see it searches, because every single page is indexed by Google in the same way as Google indexes pages for its search engine. It's looking at all the content within the pages, so it's picking up Java, for example, as a skill, because that's what these guys are talking about. You can see here, this is a basic example, but I've already got 72 results. Now that obviously needs a bit of qualification, a bit of filtering, and probably a bit more work when it comes to job title. If I wanted to change that to developer or engineer, then I could do that, and that will filter down the results. It will take it down from 72 down to 30, as we can see there. So it is really good and it's really powerful. Okay, say I wanted to find, I'll take out at Google. If I say I wanted to find everyone who works at, I'll use Tesco as an example. Just to see what comes up. Because Tesco came in the news today in the UK. Okay, then it's bringing up loads of results for people who work at Tesco and live in London. Okay. It's also bringing up worked at. So that's something to watch out for. You've got options like lives in or lived in, and you've also got works at or worked at. So if you wanted to find people who only previously worked at Tesco, then you could change it to that. And that would only bring up people who have previously worked or who are stating on the profile that they have previously worked at Tesco. This is a really flexible search. Luckily, it's a really simple search, and the wording of people's profiles means that, generally speaking, it's only going to be profile pages that are actually coming up from the search. But you can do a general site search against that, and it will bring up other types of pages as well. So if I wanted to find Java London, then it might, for example, bring up a community as opposed to page. There we go, great example. So let's bring up London Java community. Okay, as the first one. So it's not brought up a user's page because I haven't searched specifically for information in the format that it's actually on that person's page in. So it's bringing up different things instead. That's really good because actually we could search for just communities by doing an URL search or doing a site search, but I could do just a site search. Against plus.google.com/communities. Okay, and as soon as I do that, then it's only going to bring up communities. It won't bring up any other type of page at all. So it's bring up performance Java users, group Java, lots and lots of different options there. So if there is a specific skill set, specific type of person, then it might be worth doing a search against communities to try and find more candidates that way. So that's a couple of different searches that you can run there. I'm going to just run back. I'm just going to go back to that previous search that I found for the chat at Google. Once I've found my candidate, then the good thing about Google Plus is that it's got Hangouts built into it. Now that actually means I can contact that person free of charge. I don't actually have to have them in my circles or have them in any of my as a connection on Google Contacts or anything like that. So I can look at the person. I can then click the Hangouts button. Just give it a second to load. And it will then bring up the Hangouts page, and it will then give me the options of contacting that person. Seconds, and the system is just slightly slow at the moment. Okay. So if I wanted to start a conversation with this person, there's two ways I can do it. I can either type the message or I could start it as a video call. If I type the message and you've got the message there saying Stephen isn't in the Hangouts at the moment, he'll get an email notification of that, or if he's using an Android device, he'll get a notification or on his device that's been sent that you've actually tried to contact him. So one way or another, he's going to get the message. Okay. If the person doesn't have the application on their device, for example, Adam Gordon, our managing director, he doesn't have the Google Plus or Google Hangouts application installed on his device. He's a BlackBerry user and hasn't just got round to doing it yet. He would actually get an email notification instead, and I've tried to do that. And you don't have to pay for it. It's completely free of charge. You're guaranteed that we're going to get some kind of notification. And actually, do you know what? It's a good way of getting people's attention, particularly if you maybe try and start a video call with a person. If you've struggled to get a hold of someone through the normal way, then what have you got to lose? And you could try just starting a video call with the person. The good thing about Google Hangouts is actually you don't need to have found the person in this way to actually get in touch with them. If I'm going to go back to my home page and use this as an example, what I can do is go find people. And you could type, it's got a good directory, so if you know the person's name and you know what they look like, then you can search for the person just by clicking here, add people, and that will add that onto your Hangouts. Or in fact, sorry, click on Hangouts, and I can do search for people. So I'm just going to pick a random name. I'm just going to try and find someone who's called a random name, Alan McDonald. For example, I don't know any Alan McDonalds. There's nobody in my Hangouts, but what you can see is it's actually run up a lot of information there and run up a lot of people that have matched people called Alan McDonald. So I've got this guy who works at Apple. Guy works at a marketing company, works at McDonald's. So as you can see, there's lots and lots and lots of information here. If you know the person's name, and if it's a bit more specific than Alan McDonald, then you're going to be able to find the person. And that might be that I type Alan McDonald Apple, and there we go, it brings up everything called Alan McDonald Apple. If you go into Google, make the matching there. So if I just type in Apple, is it going to bring up? What's it going to bring up? It's going to bring up people that work at Apple. So Hangouts is a really powerful way of finding people and getting in touch with people. You don't need to know their email addresses. All you need to know is their name and where they work, for example. Any pertaining information, you can narrow that down. Really, really powerful, really, really, really useful. And as long as the person's got some kind of Google account, then they will get a notification of it. Even if the person doesn't have a Google account, they will still get an email notification. So, for example, I ran a test there. You can see it's Billy McDiarmid at socialmediasearch.co.uk. That's my work email address. And that work email address isn't linked to any Google account. But if I try to message that, then it would still Google would still send a notification to that email address. So thanks for listening, thanks for watching, I hope you found that useful, and please do get in touch with me through Twitter. If you've got any questions, you can find me at Billy McDiarmid, and if you're not connected with me already, please do connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks very much indeed.